Hello, my dear students. Hope you guys are all doing good. Hope you are all perfectly fine. So, as you all are aware, in the recent times, ICAI has come up with an announcement regarding new scheme. Now they have even uploaded all the materials for the CA examination under new scheme. At all levels of CA examination, they have released materials for CA Foundation, CA Inter, and CA Final. So they have they have released the materials under new scheme. In this video, I am going to do one quick comparison between CA intermediate auditing syllabus under old scheme and also under new scheme. See, before I do this further in-depth comparison of the syllabus under new scheme and old scheme, I want to tell you one thing. The syllabus is significantly same. Just what they have done is rearrangement of the chapters they have done. At some places they have clubbed the chapters together, and some chapters they have divided into 2-3 chapters. So only rearrangement has happened. 95% of the content remains the same. What is the only change they have done in the new syllabus, especially when it comes to auditing subject? So the only change here is rearrangement of the chapters is the only major thing which has happened. Apart from that, a very limited new content has been added. So apart from that, no major changes are there. Let me assure you that first. So once you got comfortable with this fact, then we'll proceed further and do the detailed analysis. Number one, the title of the subject has been changed. Now they are calling it auditing and ethics. Now they call it audit and ethics. Earlier they used to call the subject as auditing and assurance, but now the subject has been renamed as auditing and ethics. So now for quick comparison, I have added here these are the chapters in the as per ICAI study materials. So on the left hand side, I have this chapters under new scheme, and on the right hand side, I have the chapters under old scheme. So let me do one quick comparison here. What exactly were added, deleted? So that quick comparison we are going to do now. So starting with, we'll begin with each chapter we will take and we will see what changes have actually been made and what we have to be aware of. So let me do it. So first thing, I will start with old scheme. See, under old scheme, we have a chapter called nature, objective and scope of audit. Able to see here? So under old scheme, we have a chapter called nature, objective and scope of audit. Under new scheme, this chapter has been divided into 2 chapters. So under the new scheme, when you find this chapter number 1, nature, objective and scope of audit, and chapter number 11, ethics and terms of engagement, these 2 chapters are nothing but in our old scheme, they are given as single chapter, nature, objective and scope of audit. But in the new scheme, the same chapter has been divided into 2 parts. One, they have told it, the one chapter title, they have kept it same, nature, objective and scope of audit. And they have divided some content from this nature, objective and scope of audit, and they gave it as chapter number 11, ethics and terms of audit engagement. So this chapter has been divided into 2. Now coming to the next topic. Under old scheme, we used to have a chapter called audit strategy, planning and program. That chapter remains the same. There is no change when it comes to this chapter, audit strategy, planning and program. This chapter is going to remain the same, no significant changes. Then we have under old scheme, we had audit documentation and audit evidence. Able to see here? So under old scheme, we had a chapter audit documentation and audit evidence. Now this chapter has been divided into 2 parts. Chapter number 4, audit evidence, we have. Chapter number 6, audit documentation. So earlier we used to have one single chapter. Now that one single chapter has been divided into 2. Then talking about risk assessment and internal control, this topic remains the same. Risk assessment and internal control, the same chapter we are having here. There is no significant change when it comes to risk assessment and internal control. But the interesting thing here is, see, under old scheme, we used to have this chapter audit in an automated environment. Now risk assessment and internal control and audit in automated environment, both have been clubbed together and they have been given a single name, risk assessment and internal control. So when you open and read the chapter risk assessment and internal control, as a part of this chapter only, audit in automated environment is also included. So here what has actually happened is clubbing of the 2 chapters. So we used to have earlier under old scheme 2 different chapters, risk assessment and internal control, audit in an automated environment. Now both the chapters are clubbed together, everything they have included in the chapter called internal control. Now apart from that, Talking about audit sampling analytical procedures, under old scheme we used to have two different chapters, audit sampling and analytical procedures. Now both the chapters are clubbed into audit evidence. In the audit evidence chapter itself, they have given the content, they have included the content of audit sampling, they have included the content of analytical procedures. Both have been clubbed into the chapter audit evidence. Then fraud and responsibilities of auditor, in this regard, this content we are not able to find it. Under old scheme, we used to have this chapter, fraud and responsibilities of auditor. Now we don't have this chapter under new scheme. Then talking about remaining content, audit of items of financial statements, this chapter remains the same as it is. Under new scheme also we have the same chapter, audit of items of financial statements. There is no change here. Then the interesting thing here is company audit chapter is not there. In the new scheme, we don't have a chapter called company audit. I will tell you the logic why. What is the reason why they have not included company audit under the new scheme? So you might have a doubt, sir, this is such an key chapter and very much important under this existing scheme. Why they have removed this chapter under new scheme? One simple logic here, guys. See, in the existing scheme, whatever company audit chapter we have, the same chapter used to be there in the corporate law also. In the law subject, whatever you read, in that law subject, we used to have a chapter called audit and auditors. So whatever we read in the company audit chapter, in the auditing subject, that is from section 139 till section 148, we used to read it. The same syllabus was also there under corporate law. And under existing scheme, it was happened so many times that they ask questions regarding company audit in the auditing subject also. They ask questions regarding company audit in the law paper also. So might ICAI might have thought that it is going to be an unnecessary repetition. So what they have done is they have now excluded this company audit chapter from the auditing paper, but this chapter remains intact in your corporate law. So under existing scheme, we used to have company audit chapter under both the law paper and also under auditing. And they used to test the questions regarding the same chapter, even in the corporate law paper, even in the auditing paper. So since it is leading to repetition, what ICAI might have thought is, so we don't want unnecessary repetition. So they have excluded this chapter from the auditing. Now the questions will be asked going forward only under law paper. So this is what my view. That's the reason why I don't find the company audit chapter under new scheme. Then when it comes to audit reporting, yes, audit reporting chapter is there as it is intact. Audit reporting chapter is there. And one more thing, guys, even though they have excluded the company audit chapter, if a few provisions of the company audit are still there, which are actually included in the audit report chapter. Like the few chapters which are still there are audit of branch office accounts, the concept of joint audit. So these things are still there. CARO, reporting requirements under 143 subsection 1, reporting requirements under 143 subsection 3. So especially those provisions of the Companies Act relating to audit report, they have actually been included in the audit report chapter. So I could say comfortably that majority of the content of company audit has been taken off. Only few related provisions like branch audit, joint audit, CARO, 143 subsection 1, 143 subsection 3, these are still there and they have been actually clubbed into audit reporting chapter. Next one. Then we have audit of banks under old scheme. That chapter remains the same. Under the new scheme also we have the same chapter, audit of banks. Then we have audit of different types of entities. That chapter is also still there. Special features of audit of different types of entities, nothing but the content wise it is going to be same. The content wise it is going to be same. So if you see here, as per old scheme, two chapters have been excluded under new scheme. Which chapters are excluded under new scheme? So fraud and responsibilities of auditor, this chapter is not there. It is no longer there as a part of our new scheme. And even company audit chapter is also has also been excluded under new scheme of auditing syllabus. And now if you come to new scheme, there is one addition which they have done. The addition which they have done is a chapter called completion and review. They have added one more chapter called completion and review. But frankly speaking, in this also they have just changed the title. Under this chapter, completion and review, what actually there is, there are some 6 standards on auditing which are given. And those standards are SA 560, which is relating to subsequent events, SA 570, which is relating to going concern, Then we have SA 580 talking about written representations. These three standards are already there under existing scheme. These three standards we used to read even under old scheme also. The same three standards were divided and they have added a separate chapter for that, and they have given a title completion and review. Along with that, they have also added three new standards which we don't used to discuss under existing scheme or old scheme. So the three new standards which were added were SA 450, SA 260, SA 265. These three were actually added. So now these six standards were given in a single chapter, and they have named that chapter as completion and review. They named it as what? Completion and review. And in that, six standards were given. But as I have told, under old scheme, we already used to learn 560, 570, 580, and three standards were just added. 450, 260, 265. These three standards were added. Now these six standards, they have kept it under one chapter, and they have given a name called completion and review. That's it, guys. That's what the change which has happened. So if I give you a summary, what are the changes between old scheme and existing scheme? If I give you summary, very simple. Earlier we used to have nature, objective and scope of audit. This was divided into two chapters. Then audit strategy, planning and program remains the same. Audit documentation and audit evidence, we used to have one single chapter under old scheme. Now it has been divided into audit documentation, separate chapter they have did it. Audit evidence, they have divided the chapter, but in this they have added audit sampling and analytical procedures. They have clubbed it. Earlier we used to have audit sampling, analytical procedures, two different chapters. Now these two chapters are clubbed together along with audit evidence, and they made it a single chapter called audit evidence. Then in the earlier, so I can say a block here: audit documentation, audit evidence, audit sampling and analytical procedures. All the three have been clubbed together and they made two chapters out of it. Then earlier we used to have risk assessment and internal control. Along with that, we also used to have separate chapter audit in automated environment. They clubbed both the chapters together and they have told risk assessment and internal control. When it comes to audit of items of financial statements, it remains the same. When it comes to audit of various entities, it also remains the same. And two chapters were excluded: fraud and responsibilities of auditor excluded, company audit is also excluded, audit reporting chapter remains the same. In addition to that, they have added one more chapter. One new chapter is there, completion and review. They have added. This is nothing. Under this completion and review, there are actually six standards which are covered. Out of that six standards, three standards anyhow we read it under existing scheme or old scheme. So those three standards which we already read are 560, 570, 580. These are already there in our old syllabus. In addition to that, three standards were newly added for our CA Inter: 450, 260, 265. These three were extra added. So these six standards they have kept together and they have given a name called completion and review. These are the only changes which have taken place. So that's why I'm saying that there are no drastic changes when it comes to CA inter-level auditing syllabus. The content is same. All the content is same. And in fact, I could say here comfortably that actually your syllabus has been reduced by two chapters. Your syllabus has been reduced by two chapters. Only three standards were added. Three simple standards were added. Apart from that, there are no drastic changes under old scheme and under new scheme. No need to get worried about it a lot. Content wise, it remains the same. Just what is the major thing which has taken place? Rearrangement of the chapters has taken place. Dividing, clubbing of the chapters has only happened. Apart from that, no drastic changes were there. So this is what I want to bring it to the students' attention. So this is what the main purpose of doing this video. Hope you guys found this video informative. If you like it, please do share it, and also please do subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, guys. Take care, everybody. All the very best.